The age-old question. Who's more clever, fellas or girls? Well, I've a story here that might answer that question. And 'twas about a time in Ireland when you couldn't swing your hand round your head without hitting a king there in every bush and corner. There was this king had loads of land, and there was his father and his daughter who had no land. And they came up to the king and said, "Your Majesty, will you give us some land?" And he said, "I might, and then again I might not." And they said, "What's that supposed to mean?" Well, he said, "I love riddles, and if you can answer this riddle for me, I'll give you a bit of land." And the father said, "I'm hopeless at riddles. Go on, what is it anyway?" And the riddle is very simple. What's higher than high, what's lower than low, what's greater than God, what's worse than the devil? It's what the devil eats, and if we eat it, we die. Sure, the father hadn't a clue, but the daughter was very clever. She said, "I know the answer," and the answer is nothing. "Correct," says the king, "you're right." Anyway, they got a bit of land, and they were working away the land, and one day the father was kind of digging, and his shovel hit something hard, and he reached down to see what it was, and it turned out to be a cup made out of gold. "Look at this," he said. "I'm going to give this cup to the king for a present." "Bad move," she said. "You'll only get into trouble." He said, "How in the name of God could I get into trouble giving the king a present of a cup?" "I'll tell you why," she said. "Because if you give the cup to the king, he said where there's a cup, there was always a saucer. But I didn't find any saucer." She said, "I know you didn't find a saucer, and you know you didn't find a saucer, but the king won't believe you." But do parents ever listen to their children? Never. So I went up to the king and gave the cup to him. And the king said, "That's lovely, but where's the saucer?" He said, "I didn't find any saucer." "Oh," said the king, "we'll find out whether you did or not." And he sent him down to the dungeon and sent the torturer down after him. After a while, the torturer came back up and said, "Your Majesty, I can't do this anymore." "What do you mean?" he said. "Look," he said, "every time I hit him with the hot poker, he said, 'Why didn't I listen to my daughter? Why didn't I listen to my daughter?'" Send him up to me. "What's this business about your daughter?" "Oh, my daughter told me that if I gave you the cup, I'd only get into trouble because you'd say, 'Well, there was a cup, there must be a saucer,' and I didn't find..." "Oh," said the king, "your daughter thinks she's clever, does she? Right. I would her to come to me in 3 days' time. Not by day or by night, not walking, not riding, not naked, not clothed, not with a gift or without a gift, or else you're for it." So I went home bawling, crying. The daughter said, "What's wrong with you?" "Oh, we're in right trouble. The king wants you to go to him in 3 days' time. Not by day or not by night, not walking, not riding, not naked, not clothed, not with a gift or without a gift, or else we're for it." "Yeah," she said, "that's very easy. Will you buy me 3 things? Will you buy me a fisherman's net, a goat and a dove?" And he did. So what did she do? She took off all her clothes and wrapped herself in the fisherman's net, so she wasn't naked or clothed. She put one leg up in the back of the goat and one leg dragging along the ground, so she wasn't walking or riding. And she arrived just before the dawn came up and just before the night finished, so she didn't arrive by day or by night. And in her hands she had a dove. And she said, "Your Majesty, this is for you." And when he put out his hands to take the dove, she opened her hands and the dove flew away. She had a gift and she hadn't a gift. And the king said, "God," he said, "you're one clever woman, and come here. You're not bad looking either," he said. "Would you like to marry me?" Now, as she wasn't doing anything else that day, she said she would. And everything was going grand until one day the king said, "I want you to promise me something." "What's that?" she said. "I want you to promise me that you'll never disagree with me in public." That's not a strange thing for a man to ask. "You know what harm?" she said. "I will, of course. I'll promise away." Sometime later, there was this farmer had a cow. And during the night, the cow gave birth to a calf. And the calf strayed and went into the next field in between 2 horses. And the farmer that owned the 2 horses said the calf was his. And the farmer that owned the cow said, "Are you for real? It couldn't be, it has to be mine." They couldn't agree, so the king was called to the side. And the king saw the calf in between the 2 horses and said, "Ah, isn't that lovely? Ah, I decree the man that owns the 2 horses owns the calf as well." And the real owner, the farmer, was walking home with his head held low because there was no profit in arguing with the king. And who did he bump into? Only the queen. And the queen said, "What's wrong with you?" "Look," he said, "I know he's your husband and I know he's the king, but he's after making a very silly mistake telling the story." "Do you know what you do?" She said. "You get a fishing rod, and you know the green field in front of the castle? Be fishing away there." So he was fishing away, falls casting, spade casting, roll casting away. And the king came along and said, "What are you doing?" "I'm fishing." He said, "You have no hope in hell of catching fish in a green field." Well, he said, "I've as much chance of catching fish in a green field as 2 horses have of giving birth to a calf." "I suppose you're right," said the king, "but you weren't that clever at all with me. Who told you?" "Oh," he said, "'twas your own wife told me." "What?" he said. I'll get your calf back for you. And his face reddened up with temper. He pushed open the door to the castle and he said to the wife, pack your bags and get out of here, he said. I asked you to promise me that you wouldn't disagree with me in public. You'll have to make me look a fool in front of my subjects. Pack your bags. And then he thought of the love that had between them. And he said, look, for the love that we had between us, take a gift, take what's most precious belonged to you out of the castle and go away with you. I'll go, she said, but before I go, I'd like to cook you one last meal for old time's sake. You're a cook away, he said. And she cooked him a beautiful meal and had loads of red wine. In fact, I think they made a song about it afterwards. And when they drank all the red wine, of course, he fell asleep. And he woke up in a dungeon. But 'twasn't a dungeon, thought. Where was he? Only back in her old house with her father. What am I doing here? You're here, she said, because you said to me on leaving the castle was that I was to bring the gift that was most precious to me. And you're the most precious gift in my life. And he looked and he said, God, he said, you're one clever woman, he said, and you're as gorgeous as ever. Come on, give me another chance. Bring yourself and your father back to the castle, and I promise to behave. And they all went back to the castle, and any time there was a difficult case come up, the king would always call the queen out to help. And lads, if we listen to women a bit more, we might have a better world than we've here today. And that story of the clever daughter, agus Sinead Mushgale.